monster in your ears, boy. It's way too hard at the ice out the neck. It's way too hard at the ice out the neck. When I'm in my zone, bitch, I get my respect. Call me bumping Johnson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Texas Sports World. We are your hosts, Ethan. That is Isaac. I'm hoping we are going to have a great show today. We're going to get into the new playoff seeding that kind of came out earlier this week. I believe that was yesterday. And then we're going to give our way too early post-spring top 25, get into some cool debate there, and yeah, hopefully have a good time. How are you doing today, brother? How are you doing today?
Oh, you know, we're alivin', conniving, a little bit of lying, having a good time.
So I just want to preemptively. So you said that there's some rankings that you have that you're willing to die behind.
I am willing to die in some rankings, and I don't think it's going to be the ones you think it's going to be. I know you think it's probably going to be Alabama, but I am willing to die behind that one, but that's not
the main one you're talking about.
Yeah. Some that I'm willing to. I'm not budging.
No, I hear you. But I'm telling you that there are not. I'm very fickle with mine. We could argue, like, if you could argue me out of a lot of them. A lot of it was just like really hard to kind of parse through what exactly.
I feel
was
like
what.
When I was looking at it and doing a little bit of research,
it
felt like every block of like five, every group of 5 teams, they were all interchangeable all the way up the list.
Yeah. It's like, and for me, it was like after I got to like 12, I was like, ow. I was like, man, you know, last year really screwed us up as fans. I feel
because you don't want to be so wrong that you look back on this at the end of the year and be like, wow, I was way off.
Right. Well, it's like I don't want to be wrong, but also it's like I don't know what I don't know. You know.
Right.
You know, like a lot of these teams, you know, are teams that I don't cover or get news on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of like you kind of have to like go through, skim some stuff here and there, be like, okay, they're returning these guys, you know, and you kind of try to build your criteria as you go along. But once you get to 12, it's like
You're just doing the best you can. That's what I did. I just did pretty much the best that I possibly could on all. I tried to make them fair. I tried to have reasonings why they should or should not be in the spot that they're in.
Right. I kind of try to look at it. Now, there are some that aren't going to make any sense on why I put it this way, but I try to think of like, could they beat any of the teams above them? But that's like a hard place to be. That's a hard thing.
I have some teams that I have ranked lower than teams that I think they would beat, depending on when they played in the season.
Sure. If you think about maybe, you know, the different types of things, for sure. The different types of things that they have throughout the season.
That's why it's a way too early and not.
That's why. That's why. Yeah. Now I feel like we'll definitely have some interesting stuff to talk about. Do you want to get into that first, or do you want to do the playoff seeding from last year?
Let's touch on the playoff seeding because I feel like we're going to take a lot of time on the top 25.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the NCAA came out with the ruling saying that it's going to be a straight seeding process, meaning that there's
first 4 teams, right? The best 4 teams, not the 4 conference winners.
So the conference winners do get a guaranteed playoff spot, so they're in the playoffs, but there's no guarantee that a conference winner is going to be in the top 4. They've done it. They've gone straight seeding now, which basically means that it's top 4, best 4 teams, regardless of conference, regardless of any of that. It's strictly based off resume, which I think it seems like that's what should have happened. Like, this seems like the normal way of things should have been going.
I think the conference championship games are. I think it's a good way that they're doing it now. I think moving forward, this is the way. I think it's the way it should have been done, and I think it's the way that it's. I think it's correct. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. So courtesy of On3, respect. Shout out to On3. They did they put out a graphic of what the college football playoff last year would have looked like with the new seeding format. And so I found it kind of interesting because I think it might have changed, you know, a lot of things that happened in the playoffs last year. Now, granted, some of these matchups would have happened regardless. Like Texas and Ohio State would have played in that round regardless. You know, obviously. But then you got SMU going to Rocky Top. I think Tennessee handles SMU, not so now you're talking about a Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State. I think Indiana. Do you think Indiana takes care of Boise State?
I'm glad you asked me this because I think that's interesting because my top 25 kind of reflects this scenario. I will say, are we assuming this is with Ashton Jeanty last year?
Yeah. Last year's team.
I would say they probably would. I would bet on Indiana to beat Boise last year.
I think there's more. Yeah, I would agree. I think there's too much. I think Indiana was more technically sound. I think Indiana had a lot more things they could do. It felt like Boise State was Ashton Jeanty or bust.
Yeah, I think Indiana has a surprisingly good defense.
Yeah, I agree.
Not even surprisingly, I think they just have a completely good. They have a good defense.
Yeah, so I think so. You're talking about an Indiana, Oregon, Indiana, Oregon. And then, so now that Notre Dame Clemson game, I think that'd be a good game. I think that would have been a really good matchup.
Well, I'll say this. It does look like, if this is what it will be moving forward, it looks like the games are a lot more competitive all around.
Yeah, right. Well, because I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think, so in my top 25, I have SMU in my top 25. But I don't think SMU is going to consistently find themselves in the playoffs. I don't think so. Like looking forward, so next year, maybe next year, because a lot of these teams could make it again next year. All of these teams, outside of, I would argue, outside of Arizona State, SMU, and Boise. So you replace those three teams with Ole Miss, or South Carolina.
You're missing a big one.
Am I missing a big? Which one am I missing? I'm not. Okay, all right. Fine, but I'm trying to think of non-SEC teams. Like I think maybe you could have squeezed one more SEC team in here, but non-SEC teams, because you're not now. Granted, now with this, hold on though. With this new seeding, with the way it's set up now, you could have 6 to 6. You could have a lot. You could have an SEC heavy, and you could have an SEC heavy, SEC Big Ten heavy playoff. That's just what, because ultimately, and because all Notre Dame has to do is win 10 or 11 games, and do it decisively. They lose to NIU in the beginning of the year, and they still make the playoffs. So like clearly,
I think it will be a SEC Big Ten heavy playoff moving forward this year. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but
yeah,
I believe that this list will look a lot different, more SEC and Big Ten based than this list does right now. I don't think, probably Indiana, Boise, SMU, Arizona. I'm sure there's gonna be a team that surprises everybody.
Sure, yeah,
sneaks in there, but I think this year's playoffs will look a lot more like a traditional playoff that we've come to know before.
And I think there's one team that I think could have could be the team this year that's going to kind of make some noise, and it's not because I think they're very good. It's not because I think they're very good or anything like that. It's more that they don't have to. They play Ohio State, okay, but outside of that, Ohio State and USC, but I would argue that Ohio State and I would argue that USC isn't necessarily a team that's gonna.
I think USC will be surprising. I think they'll be pleasantly surprised.
Sure, but my argument is that their schedule sets them up in such a way that if for whatever reason the media falls in love with them and they become a media darling, it would not surprise me if they sneak their way into the playoff, even off a weak schedule, much like a Boise State did. Because if Illinois goes and
are you talking about Texas? This sounds very reminiscent of Texas.
No, I'm talking about Illinois. I'm just saying if
really you think Illinois is the sleeper pick?
That's
Yeah,
I'm just saying their schedule lines them up in such a way where if they just handle the teams in front of them, then they could be their record could show them being so much better than they act, which is like a Boise State or like an SMU. It would be the same thing.
Okay. Well, I'm interested to get into that.
So they are in my top 25 as well. So I think to kind of round this particular, is there anything else? Is there anything interesting that you drew from this?
No, I think this is more reasonable than, because last year was so like
reactionary. Everything was reactionary.
It felt really poorly executed.
Yeah.
Just in the terms of how things went. Like Oregon had as the 1 seed, had like a super tough path to the national championship game where, there was other teams that were ranked worse than them or just, not the number 1 seed that had easier paths to the big game. And it was just kind of confusing because that's pretty much outside of college football. That's the only sport that does it. Like college football was the only sport that had the best teams playing the hardest schedule. It was just a very weird and I feel like unprepared version of playoff football.
Yeah, and the way this is laid out, you could make an argument that Oregon's playing for a national championship.
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, I think they handle either one of those teams, and then either Penn State, Notre Dame, or Clemson. I mean,
right.
I'm not mad at those matchups.
Yeah. So I mean, instead of Oregon getting knocked out when they did, now you have Oregon playing for, because Oregon had a tough road, dude. They had a tough road to get in there. So, and then like I said, the Ohio State bracket. So you're talking about, I would argue that the most thing that you could lean on is Oregon's going to beat that last year. What would have happened? I think Oregon's going to beat Boise State or Indiana, and Ohio State's going to beat Arizona State and Texas like they did. So, because they beat Arizona State.
But then you see, but I feel like now here's where it gets nippy and weird, because I feel like Tennessee could have beat Georgia last year.
I mean, yeah.
And then that would have put a Tennessee-Ohio State game, which might have been interesting, or because a Georgia-Ohio State game, which might have been interesting.
See, like this is what I'm saying. Like I'm kind of,
but that's all hindsight, because we also thought Texas and Ohio State was going to be like game. Like we thought that was going to be the playoff game or the national championship game before the national championship game. Like we thought it was going to be a crazy like last second field goal winning kind of game.
Well, a lot of people would argue, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, but a lot of national people and a lot of people would argue that the Ohio State-Texas game was, because I think Texas beats whoever they go on to play after Ohio State. Like I think Texas wins. So I mean, it is all hindsight, but at the end of the day, I think I hadn't fleshed this out yet since we had talked about it. And I think this kind of makes it an interesting I
also just think that this was a week, like, unbiased as an Alabama fan, I just also think it was a pretty weak playoff to watch. Like, I don't think it was a difficult.
There were teams that so clearly shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, like even if Bama wasn't going to be in, like if you were like, hey, they're not getting in, I still don't think that like SMU or I think one of those teams should have been left out. I think India, like Boise State. Say Ashton Jeanty gets hurt right before that game, then what?
Then what? Right? Because you're talking about 3 spots in a 12-team playoff that are basically gimmies for the other 9 teams. Like that's So like now, if you wanted to let just Boise State in, okay, or just SMU,
or even Boise State, SMU. Like I would have much rather seen South Carolina in,
right,
SMU or Boise.
And if people want to say that's SEC bias, at the end of the day, you couldn't look me in my eyes and tell me that South Carolina didn't deserve to be in that playoff. I'm sorry. The way they were playing,
they were better. They are a better team. I don't care what anybody has to say. South Carolina was better than SMU and Boise and Indiana and probably Clemson too.
Probably, yeah. I think they and it really sucks that they got so screwed so early in the year and they just never could recover from that. Just the way the standings worked out.
That's just the way it was last year. It was super weird. I think this year they're going to be way more critical with how they rank teams, just based off of the backlash from last year. Like I don't think you're going to see a.
That's why they're doing the straight seating thing, because I think they were sitting down at the table last year and they were like, "What? This is like way too."
Because their hands were tied. Once they kind of got to a point in the season, like the last 2-3 weeks, where they're like, I mean, if SMU wins out, we can't not put them in. But they're obviously not the best team.
Right.
So it is what it is. I think
I would argue that they probably internally had a completely different top 25. They were like, if we could, this is what it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
I would not be surprised at all by that, because they, like you said, I think their hands were tied. They got ahead of themselves way too early, and they just couldn't, because if they did take SMU or Boise State out, there would have been hell to pay, because there was no because what is your art? Because then that tells every other Power 5 team that you actually don't matter. So like you couldn't do that. So
that and they got ahead of themselves in the sense of
G4, G5, whatever.
Right. Well, they got ahead of themselves in the sense of, one of these teams has a good win against a good team, and then you overrank them, and now the rest of their season's cupcake. They're not, even if they perform bad, you can't punish them for a win.
Right.
And you can't, they're not going to lose. So it's like, we just put these guys in the top 10 just off of emotion. Now we can't bring them back.
Right. They can't. Yeah. I think there just can't be so much reactionary, like knee-jerk reaction to certain things. Because like at the end of the day, this is college football and crazy shit happens. So like we can overreact all day. It's what we're here to do. But as the voters and stuff, they can't overreact in such a way that it completely changes the whole direction of the entire college of the entire playoffs so early in the year. Like by week 4, it was like they were like, fuck. Or, by the 4th week they were doing it. So like whatever that was, week 8 or whatever, because I think they start in week 4, but that by the end of it, they were like, we can't do anything.
Yeah. I think it'll be much better next year, probably.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay. Well, I guess without further ado, would you like to get into this way too early top 25?
I would like to get into that, actually, a little bit.
A little bit. All right. You want to would you like to go first, my brethren?
I had it. Yeah. No, I'm gonna let you go first because I want to hear kind of your reasoning behind your list a little bit.
Okay, like I said, a lot of my reasonings are very fickle, and if you gave me one negative, I'd be like, yeah, you're right, my bad, I'm sorry. But some of them I have a little bit. So I went Ohio State because ultimately at the end of the day, I feel like they are the returning champions. I know that they lost a lot, but I think they brought in Matt Patricia as their D coordinator. He's an NFL guy, much like they did the year before. They do lose their offensive coordinator, but they still have Ryan Day. They still have the 5-star recruits that they've been recruiting. So this is not new to Ohio State. Reloading is not new to them. And like I said, they won last year. So why am I going to all of a sudden move? They haven't done anything, like we mentioned before, that they haven't done anything to fall out.
Yep.
They ended number 1. So why can't they start number 1? Yep. It's not like it's West Virginia went and won a national championship. Clearly they're not going to go back to back. Ohio State could legitimately go back to back, and nobody would be like, that's crazy.
The only arguing point against Ohio State, they have two of the best offense. They have one of the best offensive players in college football, arguably the best offensive player in college football, and then one of the best defensive players in college football. And the only real question mark is who's going to throw that guy the ball.
Right.
That's it. If they have a quarterback out there that nobody knows that's going to go out there and light the world on fire, there's no reason they can't go win back-to-back natties.
Right. So at 2, I have Texas. I think we just bring I think they got to remain unbiased. I think Texas just brings a lot of he had to take his headphones off. I think Texas brings a lot of pedigree to the table at this point. We're 3 seasons into this thing. I think that you got a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball that were young, that were growing, that have grown now. Ultimately, the offense has a lot of question marks. There's no doubt about that. But I think the recruiting aspect of it all really can drive how they perform. And I think they've done a good job of development. And so I think that ultimately can, I think that concoction of things could move Texas up to number 2, in my opinion. At number 3, I got Penn State. I think Penn State just has a lot of offensive firepower, but also their defense is really stout. Penn State, they got 2 1,000-yard running backs coming back. Drew Aller, I'm not super high on him personally, but I think that he's got he's got some tools and he's got an offense around him. Now, sometimes James Franklin is going to James Franklin, and Penn State might lose a couple of games because their head coach. There's no doubt about that. After that, I got Clemson. Now, I've been pretty open, I got Clemson. So I've been pretty open about, I don't necessarily understand the love affair with Clemson, but ultimately I think, hey, they do have, I'm really high on Cade Klubnik. They do got Wesco. I think they've got some guys on defense. I think this is a team that's playing in a conference that they could really do some damage in. I think that plays to their favor. And I think ultimately if they just handle business against teams they need to handle business against, then they'll find themselves in the top 4 next year. After that, I got Georgia at number 5. Kirby Smart. You got Kirby Smart. I think you've got guys on that team. It's a culture at that point. Now, ultimately, I don't necessarily know if I totally believe in what Georgia's done through the transfer portal. I think they could have got a little bit better, shopped at better stores. But ultimately, Georgia's going to Georgia, in my opinion. After that, I got LSU at number 6. I think they've got a quarterback that can throw the ball. They got a dude that can sling it. I think that they lost some guys at receiver again. They lost some guys on defense. But I think they're a top tier SEC team, and ultimately you could call it SEC bias. But I think if they can handle their way in that type of league, then there's not a lot of teams underneath them that I think would. Now, this is one of the ones that I'm kind of loose on because I think right here is where I kind of move around a little bit. But after that, I got South Carolina. I'm really high on Lenore Sellers. I really like them a lot. I think he's waiting. He wants. I promise this is no troll. I did because I told you.
No, it is. It is.
I'm not. I promise I'm not trolling.
We beat. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Onward. My bad.
Okay. I'm really high on Lenore Sellers. I think that Nick Harbor on offense, Lenore Sellers also defense. They've got some dudes over there. So now they did lose a lot. They did lose an All-American safety. I think he was an All-American at safety. So in the draft. So we'll see how they handle that. But I think they grow, and I think they grow and they get better this year. After that, I have Alabama. Now I'm going to tell you why I have them here. I was thinking about this earlier, and to me, it's not an Alabama thing. Okay, it has nothing to, but if this was a Nick Saban led Alabama team and they had the year they had last year, then I think I would have a completely different outlook on this. But the head coach right now, Kalen DeBoer, to me is such an unknown. Now he's won everywhere he's been.
You should know who Kalen DeBoer is.
I know he's won everywhere.
You should know who that is.
But there were some things he did last year. There were some things he did last year that he did that just I didn't understand. It didn't make much sense to me. I think I'm going to kind of go through these a little faster because right here is where it kind of loses control. After that, I got Notre Dame. I think that their schedule plays in favor. They're an independent team. They just got to handle business. Now, ultimately, they prove they can lose early in the year like they did and still end up, where they were. After that, I got BYU. There was a report that came out that their quarterback has some stuff going on off the field. So this is, I don't know. Then I got Florida, DJ Lagway. I think DJ Lagway, I think he's really freaking good. I think that they've got a lot of young guys on that team. I think that this may be the year they finally get it together. I think last year they would have been fine if they would have, if DJ Lagway would have played all year. I think that's a totally different Florida team we're talking about. Now, after that at 12, I have Oregon. I don't love – they could be lower on this list, in my opinion, because I think they bring back like 6 starters from last year. They lose their quarterback. They lose a lot of guys on defense. They lose a lot of guys on offense. So Now they recruited well. There's no doubt about that. There's no arguments. But I think that them being at 12 is strictly based off the fact of what they did last year and going undefeated until they lost at the end. After that, I got Ole Miss. Now they do still have a question mark at quarterback. There's no doubt about that. Simmons. There's been a lot of good reporting that I've seen here and there about him out of camp. Kirby. What's not Kirby? I just said his name yesterday. What's his name? Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin has had good things to say about him. He says he's got different arm slots, baseball guy. I think that he's an athlete. I think that could be an interesting little wrinkle in Ole Miss's offense because, I think, Jackson Dart was more of a traditional quarterback. I think this guy's got a little bit more stuff to him. No, there's no diss on Jackson Dart. He was really good and went to the NFL. After that, I got Kansas State at 14. This is one of the ones where it's a kind of a question mark for me. I was kind of doing some research, looking around, and this was kind of the area they were in. So I felt like I couldn't just not put them on the list at all because I don't personally know anything. So consensus, they're kind of in this area, so it felt right. At 15, I got Illinois. I think that they have a schedule that will help them out, much like Notre Dame. So if they just handle business, they could sneak into that. They could sneak into that top 12. You could argue that they could switch with I would argue they could switch with Oregon, and it wouldn't make me blink too much. At 16, I got Arizona State. They still got Sam Leavitt at quarterback. I think that what they got going on down there in Tempe is something really good. And I think that, again, this isn't a team I know too much knowledge on. But I know they lost some guys in the portal as well. So we'll see. There's a question mark there as well. This is more of an ode to respect to what they've got kind of going on and what I feel like they could be this year. Miami, they bring in Carson Beck as a transfer quarterback. We were very open on this channel last year when we were on here for like 1 or 2 episodes that we were not high on Carson Beck. I think we think he's a bust. I think he's going to go to the NFL and not be very great at all. Iowa State, they lose a lot of guys to the NFL, but they also still have their quarterback in Rocco Becht. I think he's still there, I'm pretty sure. And he's shown a lot of promise in the last couple of years. I mean, he's playing in an average at best, Big 12. And I think they got something going. I think he's got something going on down there. I believe in Rocco Becht a lot. After that, I got Kansas State on here twice. Sure enough, Kansas State on here twice. I knew I was going to do that because it was okay. We're going to skip it. All right. I got SMU at 20. Ultimately, same kind of thing. Not a whole lot of knowledge there, but I think they've had a lot of good stuff going on down there, and I think they could be good again this year. Michigan, I think it's a bounce back year. I think that they might have a quarterback now, Bryce Underwood, and I think they still got that's still Michigan. They still got the pedigree there, and if they can just get it together, I think ultimately it could be a team that kind of. I don't think they finished very high, but I feel like 21 seems about right. Louisville. Then at 21, at 22, I got Louisville. 23, I got Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech has put a lot of money into their program, and that doesn't usually mean a lot. That money doesn't always translate to wins, but I think Texas Tech is playing in a weak Big 12. Then after that, I got Texas A&M at 24. Marcel Reed. I think Marcel Reed is going to be really good. I think if he can get in the lab, get that throwing motion down, become more of an all-around quarterback. I think, and then Texas, and then the A&M defense, they lose a lot of guys. It's going to be a whole new team over there. But I think it could be, year 2, they're kind of in the system now. It could work out for them on defense. After that, I got Indiana. I think that they take a little fall back. I think they kind of come back down to earth a little bit, but they still earn a little bit of respect because they've won a lot, not a lot, but they've won so much so that maybe they want to keep doing it. You win a little bit, you win like that at such a high clip. You kind of want to keep doing that. So I think that they could still win some games with that schedule and where they play. But that's where I got them. I got them at 25. I can't believe I put 2 teams twice. That's crazy and super frustrating. But yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of things to say about that, but go ahead.
I'm going to say now it's time for the correct list.
Okay, I really wasn't trying to troll, but
it's okay. It's okay. I'm willing to die about that.
Okay.
We willing to die about that on this side. At 25, on my 25 spot, I got Tulane. No real reason other than I just like Tulane. I think they're a gritty team. I think I believe in their head coach, and I think last year they were just now they lost their quarterback and a running back and a lot of other guys. So it kind of went bad for them. I could be talked out of them at 25. I could be talked out of them out of the top 30. But I like Tulane. I think they're a tough team, and I think last year if they're 2 ranked wins away from probably being in the college football playoff last year. So underrated team that kind of flew under the radar. I think if they can just put it together, they'll be there. Then I got Louisville. Hold on, I got to read my notes. Oh yeah, Isaac Brown, dog. That guy's a dog. And also kind of to highlight, I think they got a good quarterback through the transfer portal, Miller Moss, who was at USC and he passed for 3,000 yards the year before last year before he lost his job, and they got some good receivers. Then I got Kansas State. Avery Johnson's a good quarterback, and I think that they also have a solid wide receiver core. Outside of that, I think they could probably be talked. I could be talked lower or out of this list. I don't think they should be any higher. Kansas State's one of those teams that's always kind of in the mix of the top 25, but they never really do anything in the top 25. So I could be talked higher, lower, or completely out of them. I'm not sold on them yet. Indiana, Fernando Mendoza. I think that's kind of what their prayer is for this season, is if he performs well. They got him. And then they also have a good defense. So I think that's kind of the backbone of their team, much like the Houston Texans. Big question mark on offense, but defense should keep them in enough games to be competitive. Tennessee, I could also be talked lower on this list. I think losing what's his name that left Tennessee?
Oh, Nico.
Yeah, Nico. I think losing Nico is going to hurt them, but I think they've always been an offensive-minded team. They got to still have a pretty solid defense, and they play in the SEC, which might be tough for them, but they've always been able to figure it out. So I haven't sold all my Tennessee stock yet, even though not a big fan of them. Then I have SMU. I don't have any notes for SMU. I don't think they should probably be on this list, realistically. I have Logan Parr and Savion Byrd. That's offensive linemen. Good for them. Arizona, I think losing Cam Scatterbo. I think Arizona and Boise. Arizona State and Boise were very similar. I think Arizona State probably had a little more offensive weapons, but I think they relied on Cam Scatterbo a lot. And I think they're still going to be pretty decent offensively, but without Cam Scatterbo, I don't see them making the push that they made last year. Then I got Texas A&M, which I could be talked way up this list. I don't know why. I'm into A&M this year. I'm into Marcel Reed. They had a good transfer portal. They got good receivers. They got a good defense. But that's also the story with A&M every single year. They're supposed to be really good, and they never are. So that's why I have them at 18. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm actually really high on them, probably a lot higher than 18. But until they can prove me right or wrong,
they got to beat that November. They got to beat that November curse, because soon as November rolls around, they just can't find their footing. It's like clockwork every season.
Now, Ole Miss, I have them pretty low on this list because of all their losses. I'm not sold on the quarterback they got there, and I don't know why Ethan's more sold on him. Ethan doesn't make sense, so we're not even going to worry about that. He's very finicky when it comes to the unproven quarterbacks of the SEC. So we're going to ignore that point. But I am a believer of Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach. I think he'll figure it out. I think he'll pretty much. I think Ohio State will just be. Who the heck is this? Oh, yep. That's sorry. Where was I at? Where am I at?
You were at Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. So yeah, I'm a big Lane Kiffin guy. I think they're going to do what Ole Miss always does, and that's about 9-4. Just average. Good on the higher end of average, but I don't think they're going to be phenomenal, or probably could be lower on this list. Illinois, they had a really good defensive transfer portal. They're going to probably win games based off of their defense. That's it for them. Miami. Now, I have Miami a little higher on the list than I thought I was going to. That's because of this. Carson Beck. Now, I know that's crazy because I had a hot take about him last year saying he was super overrated and that he sucks and da-da-da-da-da, which I still believe is true. I still believe that's true. But that was when he was playing in the SEC, and he's not doing that anymore. And I think back to the adage of if you practice hard, the game becomes easy, right? Practice harder, practice like something so the game is easy or some shit like that. I think that's what he did. He went to Georgia under Kirby Smart, played in the SEC. Now he gets to go hang out in Miami. I think he'll have probably a really good statistical year. I don't think that makes him a good quarterback, but I don't think he's playing nearly at the level that he was playing in Georgia. So I think, surprisingly, they'll probably win a good amount of games and might even be higher on this list based off of that alone. Because I don't think Miami was very good last year either. So that's a little hot take. Michigan. Now, another team I think could be higher on the list. I think they're a boom or bust, right? They're going to have a good run game. They're going to have a good defense. Their biggest question mark is quarterback. I think if their quarterback play is even substantial or just even keel or on par, I think they're a really good team. I think their defense is still really good. They have NFL caliber talent on the defense. They got the transfer portal. They got a really good running back from Alabama, Justice Haynes. He's going to be good for that system. He's going to be good for that system. And then their quarterback situation. If they have a good quarterback play, I think they could be probably. Honestly, I think Michigan's probably my sleeper to make the playoff next year if they have good quarterback play. Iowa State, don't have much on Iowa State. I'm a lot of these teams that I don't think should be on here are only on my list because they were in the playoffs last year, and that's pretty much it. Florida, I got Florida. My notes say Lagway to Longway. Don't know why I wrote that, but that's what I believe in. I think this team is as good as DJ Lagway is. So I think they can. If he plays up, I think they're going to play up. They got Dallas Wilson. He's pretty good. And then the only knock I have on Florida really is they play a really tough SEC schedule. So if Lagway can stay healthy and play good, I think this team can go as far as DJ Lagway can take them. BYU, I think, is a team that probably could have snuck into the playoffs last year based on resume. Not necessarily strength of schedule, but statistical resume. They're a pretty good team. I think they'll be good again. But I don't see them better. I could be talked lower on this list on BYU. Notre Dame. Don't like Notre Dame. Don't care for Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame's a top 10 team. I don't think Notre Dame really should be a top 25 team. I think Notre Dame deserves to be in a conference, but they're not. So they're probably going to end a lot higher than 10, and that's all I have to say about that. Not a big Notre Dame guy. Oregon. Now, Oregon, they got quarterback issues and roster issues and a lot of issues. And realistically, Oregon's probably not going to be good. But one thing I know for sure, and two things I know for certain is I like Dan Lanning, and I think he's going to have them ready to go. I don't think they're necessarily going to be great, but one thing you can count on from a Dan Lanning-led Oregon team is they're going to play with some fucking and a little bit of that. And yeah, so that's why I have them at 9. I could be talked lower. South Carolina, another boomer bust. I think if Lenore Sellers play good, they play good. I think if – hold on, I'm out of focus here. Did that fix it? Am I fixed? Am I in focus?
Yeah, I think so.
There we go. I think Lenore Sellers – I think their roster – I have a lot of boomer bust teams on this list, and I think boomer bust means as good as their quarterback or their coaching. Because I think South Carolina is a good football team. I think they're going to be a good football team. I think Lenore Sellers is a great quarterback. But if he goes down, I feel like that's going to hinder their program. So that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. Not that they're bad or that I think they'll be bad, and they're in the top 10 for me, but that's what I got for South Carolina. LSU, I don't have an answer for why they're at 7. I don't think they're that good. I'm not a big Nussmeier guy. not sold on him at all, even a little bit, not even 1%. But everybody else seems to be high on him, so I can't not be high on him because then I'm going to get told I'm just trying to be different, which I'm not. But I just not a fan of LSU, not big Nussmeier guy. I don't think they got much better. And I think we'll see. And I'm not their coach is dog shit. So yeah, moving on. Georgia, also don't think they're very good. Don't think they're going to be very good. But if I know another thing, it's Kirby Smart's a good football coach. So he will have a team ready. He'll have a team out there that's going to be competitive no matter what you give him. You could give him 22 me's and he'll figure it out some way or another. We'll be a competitive football team. So I think Georgia's one of those teams you just don't bet against, especially with Kirby Smart at the helm of it. Clemson, another team that I'm kind of confused why they're here. I think Cade Klubnik is good, and they got a good receiver in Antonio Williams. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know. I guess Cade Klubnik's pretty good. Big on Cade Club. I think he's a dog.
Brian
but
Wesco.
Everything else, yeah, I guess, but not huge on. Now, here we go. I got Alabama at the 4 spot, and here's why. Ethan thinks I'm wrong, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. Here's why Alabama's top 4 team. Roster for roster, they're up there with pretty much anybody in the entire nation outside of the quarterback spot. That's it. We're going to have Alabama, I believe, could have a top 10 defense. They have nothing but superstars on offense, one of the best receiving corps in the nation, a really good O-line. The only question mark is, and my question to Ethan, because he's for some reason super low on him, is how big of a factor is quarterback play?
No, here's my dude. I don't think 8 is not that low. 8 is where y'all should have ended the year last year.
I agree, but I'm just saying, how big of a factor does quarterback play come in for you?
I mean, it's quarterback. It'd be one thing if I just don't, like I said, I just don't believe that this isn't the same. This isn't the same Alabama team that was led by Nick. Like I said, if it was a Nick Saban led team, I just don't believe in your head coach. I think that's what it is for me.
I mean, Kalen DeBoer, he's a consistently winning football coach. He's coached at a high level. It's not like he's a first-year guy. It's not like he's some nobody coach that we hired off the side of the road. He's been a good coach. He's won everywhere he's been. Natty. Right. And that's no different. He came in. You got to give him grace for the fact of when he came in and the job that he took. And he got mauled by the portal whenever Saban left. He had no option. He couldn't recruit guys. He couldn't bring in guys from the transfer portal until this offseason, which he did. We recruited great, top 20 in transfers. I mean, and there's a lot of reports coming out of the Alabama camp per Ryan Williams, their superstar. Personally, I think is the best receiver in college football. Their superstar receiver, saying that the guys weren't bought in. Kalen DeBoer's gone on record and said that this is going to be the hardest summer training camp that they've ever had. So I don't think Alabama at 4 is crazy, because I think everywhere else on their roster they have decent depth, and I think the top half of their roster, all starters besides the quarterback, are maybe possibly could go head to head with anybody in the nation.
Look, at the end of the day, ultimately, I will yield the fact that I still think Alabama, like, I'm not saying they have bad players around the board. They still have good players. They're not destitute. Like, they still have really good players over there. And they did recruit well in the portal and high school. So, like, I'm not denying that they have talent over there. But I'm just saying when you win so much, like, it's the same thing Texas went through. I'm not saying that y'all are anywhere near close to what we had to go through the last 10 to 12. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But when you win, you win so much at such a high level, you know what it looks like. And it just feels like these Alabama teams are not the same. They're not wired the same. And so it seems like
they're getting back to that. I think based on the reports that I've read, at least, they're getting back to that. Now, I don't know how much volatility this has, but DeBoer's going out there being way more stricter on things like what they can and can't wear to classes, like no more chains. I don't know how that fucking makes a shit, but no chains. You got to wear certain clothes to like look presentable. So he's at least putting in the effort to build a standard or build, because you're never going to get what Nick Saban had. You're not going to get that out of these.
I agree.
But if you at least put in that effort and find the guys that want to be there, that are bought into what you have going on, we know what a Kalen DeBoer-led football team looks like. They're a national championship contending team per Washington. So if he can get that kind of intensity and work out of those guys at Alabama, I don't see why there's a question mark there outside of the quarterback position. Which I don't think Ty Simpson's going to be a bad quarterback either.
I don't think he's going to be a bad. I don't. And by the way,
teams on your list, I mean, where was he at? Where is it? Ole Miss. You had Ole Miss somewhere crazy high for no reason because of their quarterback, who is yet to be a proven quarterback because of one good drive against Georgia.
I have him at 13.
That's way higher than I would have him. I think that's way higher than
most people. You have him at 17. That's like 4 spots.
Yeah, that's different though. It's different. It's only 25. Like that amount of spots that's a pretty steep drop, I feel like.
I mean, okay, that's fine if you want to argue about Ole Miss and
no, it's not about Ole Miss. There's another pretty unproven quarterback that you have ranked way high on your list that we'll get into, because I got him next up, and his name's Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns.
Let's get into it.
I think they are also a boomer bust team. Now hold on. I say boomer bust in the sense that not necessarily on the bust part, but I think boom or bust in the sense of not as good as Arch Manning can bring them. They're a good team. They have a good roster. They have good guys, and Sark's a good head coach. But they're on the upper echelon of boomer bust teams. Their bust is not like a Carolina or a Florida bust. Their bust is like maybe 3 games. That's a bust for them. And I think they are a boomer bust team. If Arch goes down, if Arch gets hurt, there isn't that guy to back him up. So also, if Arch plays bad, I don't think y'all have necessarily the resources to pull out those games. On offense, I think y'all got a little bit. I think y'all got a little bit
insane, dude.
I think y'all got a little bit coached on the offense.
That is insane.
I think y'all's receivers were better last year. I think y'all's defense is pretty on par.
Here's the thing. Okay,
I do think
from an outsider's perspective.
Hold on. I do think Arch will play better than Quinn. Personally, I do think he will. But if he doesn't, I don't think y'all are nearly as good as y'all were last year.
He doesn't have to play, even if he plays at Quinn's level, and we like, that's my, if you just said, if he plays better than Quinn, then we're a better team. And if he plays at Quinn's level, then we're going to the semifinals of the college football playoff again.
Y'all made it there last year with Quinn.
That's what I'm saying.
I would say y'all's roster and the culture that y'all have built at Texas, I would argue last year was a bust season for you guys. That's what I mean as boomer bust. I think bust for me for Texas this year is the same thing that happened to y'all last year and the year before that. Making it to the playoffs, I think y'all are playoff lock, but still kind of at that hump that y'all can't get over, which is wherever in the playoffs. Yeah,
but I think
that's a bust season for Texas.
Then every team busts every year outside of the winner by that, because that's what makes
not necessarily. I think Boise was a boom. I think Indiana had a boom year. I think SMU had a boom year.
But I'm saying how. Yes, you just named all the schools that weren't supposed to be there. So yeah, they had a boom year, but like you could argue that means that every team that made the playoff that didn't win a game, it was a bust season.
I think you're taking this as a negative thing, even though I have y'all ranked 3rd. I think what I'm saying is I'm holding y'all to a standard of, if y'all don't win a natty, it should be a bust. Y'all are pushing the level of, your fan base is pushing that expectation level of how good Arch is going to be. That basically, I'd say a good 70% of your fan base, if y'all don't do better than last year, or even if y'all if y'all go through early season humps like Ohio State or something like that, I think your fan base, you'll get a taste of what an Alabama fan base looks like. And that is, you fuck up one time, the whole world is going to end today. And I think that's kind of the level that Texas football is at right now.
Good. Honestly, if that's the room we've put ourselves in, that's fine. Because that room is much better to hang out in than the Kansas than losing to Kansas.
Definitely agree. So, and I talked a lot of shit about Texas. I thought y'all were overrated last year, and I was proven right. I don't think y'all are as overrated this year. I'm buying into the archetype a little bit.
Okay, I'm just going to rebuttal for a quick second. So here's the thing. We did lose. I even in mine, I admitted that the offense is a big question mark right now because you lose your quarterback, you lose your top, 3 receivers. You now, as a fan who follows the team in the offseason pretty closely, as you do Alabama, which kind of makes us arguing. It's like two people who know nothing about the other person's thing argue about their thing. So, I don't really know a whole lot about Alabama. You don't know a whole lot about Texas, but we know a lot about our thing.
I would argue I know more about Texas than you know about Alabama.
But that's because I don't care about Alabama. So, but I know a little bit about Alabama. My point being is the offense is a question mark. We lose a lot, but the people that we went out and got, we bring in a freshman All-American receiver that was in the transfer portal. I know that doesn't matter to you, but we're talking about a guy that would have been like the second or third best freshman receiver in Texas football history, and that's with an Xavier Worthy, Roy Williams. That's what the list of the Jordan Shipleys. So the point I'm trying to make is yes, do we still have question marks? Did we have a lot of people leave? Absolutely, but I think the guys that we brought in, and specifically on defense, I think defensively with Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, you still got Michael Taft, you still got Manny Muhammad.
I think with the question mark,
there's that the core is still there from last year, and that you bring in an Arch Manning that you think, in your words, could perform better than Quinn. So
can perform better. I don't think I don't know if he will, but I think he can. The Georgia game doesn't have me very inspired by Arch Manning, which might put me in the minority.
I get it. It does. That Georgia game was ugly. There's no doubt about it. But it's impossible for us to have this conversation because and I can't argue back because yeah, man, you're right. He looked bad against Georgia and we lost to Georgia twice. So yeah, I guess there's no way I can rebut.
I think the University of Texas, much like you, I don't think face adversity well. I haven't seen them face an adversity or overcome something crazy and perform well, personally. Now I don't watch every game, so I could be wrong about that. But on the main stage, it seems like Texas
facing adversity, 4th and 13 for the win. I feel like that's pretty against a team you should beat.
Who was it against?
I just said that. I just said against the team you should beat. They come out on fire in the second half. You get some calls don't go your way. The ball bounces their way a couple of times, and now they're back in the game.
I'm not getting into this argument with you about how what is that? So it has to all of this respect off the schedule that y'all played last year and y'all won the SEC.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not getting into this with you.
No, I'm not saying that Arizona, but I'm agreeing with you that Arizona State was shit and we should have beat them way worse than we did. And it should have come down to a 4th and 13. I agree with you on that. I agree with you. But what I don't, but at the end of the day, they did stick out to win and they did overcome that adversity. And they were
a lot different. I would argue that's so much more different than getting smacked in the mouth by Georgia and then not being able to come back or have any sense of energy or oomph or anything about your team to rally back and try. Look, that was okay.
Listen,
let me tell you. Let me
tell you. No. Let me. You have to.
So now I don't get a turn.
Yes, you don't get a turn. You was talking about how you talk too much. Now I'm gonna talk over you and see the comments don't like that. So. You made me lose my goddamn train of thought.
Good, so I can get into my thing. The difference between Texas is Texas gets punched in the mouth by Georgia can't rally back. Georgia got punched in the mouth by Alabama and almost won that game. That's the difference.
You can't use transitive properties because Alabama lost to fucking Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
It doesn't matter.
Yes,
that has nothing to do with anything.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about how good Alabama is. I'm talking about a team like Georgia being able to come back against that team like Alabama.
So that Georgia getting punched in the mouth by Alabama has nothing to do with Texas and Georgia. That game has nothing.
It has everything to do with Texas. So
does Vanderbilt and so does Oklahoma. Then that's why Alabama is ranked at 8 and not 4.
Not really, because it's so
different. You can't
have your
cake and eat it too. They're the same
thing. I definitely can't because it's so different.
They're so
because y'all get punched in the mouth by a team like Georgia.
By a team that was good. That's a superior team.
Competitive team of the season. Your first competitive game of the season. Y'all get punched in the mouth and y'all cower. And y'all sit there in the fetal position, and y'all sit there and go, well, we'll get him next time. And then y'all lose the next time. And you say, I want to get him again.
Just because you used a whole bunch of hyperbole doesn't make it any worse than it actually was. There was no running us out.
A well-rounded team like Georgia.
That was a good team. They beat us. That is it. They beat us. I understand that.
That's not what you were saying last year coming into those games. It was, I'm not
worried about Georgia. Because I thought we could beat them. Because I thought we could beat. I thought we
can't rally back because y'all don't have the ability to rally back.
So then I hope you're not. I hope y'all win. I hope y'all win every game next year because the minute y'all lose to a team that's a really good team, I'm going to say y'all can't face adversity.
We're not talking about us. We're talking about
y'all. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to reverse it on you, and you're going to see how ridiculous that argument is you're making.
It's not a ridiculous argument.
It is ridiculous.
Prove anything in a big game outside of Arizona State, and that's it.
And Clemson it was a good football team, clearly.
Y'all were much better than Clemson. Y'all are much better than Clemson. I still think right now. But
and we beat the shit out of them.
Equal mindset, though. That's my whole point. God.
What's Alabama? You don't even know what you're talking about mindset. You're giving all this credit to Alabama. You're talking about mindset. Texas would run Alabama. Texas would run Alabama off the field tomorrow if they played.
Y'all might lose by 40 points if y'all played us.
Okay, that's okay.
Y'all might lose because here we go again. Sark in a big, huge game, and Quinn Ewers in this big, bright lights, and a trip to the national championship can't complete a 5-yard pass to his receiver to walk off the game. Against who? Mr. Kalen DeBoer. That's who. You get out coached. And then you get out coached by Kirby Smart.
You are okay.
And then you get beat by Ohio State. So name me a good team.
Here's the thing is that all you do is you look at the box score and the highlights, and then that's all you care about.
I watched all 3 of those games.
And then you clearly didn't because the Ohio State game was so horribly officiated. It was ridiculous. So don't tell me
in Washington was a team with a chance to win the game, and you can't complete.
And you had, and that's not on Stark. Stark called the right play. The dude was open. Quinn just didn't hit the throw. That's on Quinn Ewers. That's on Quinn Ewers.
No team, and they get dog walked.
That's on Quinn Ewers.
Just like exactly. And then Arch comes in and can't do shit against them.
That's on Quinn Ewers.
We're going to get him next
let me finish. That's on Quinn Ewers, just like every loss you blame on Jalen Milroe is. It's the same. If you're going to blame every loss on Jalen Milroe, then I get to blame that loss on Quinn and not on Sark. Because that was a good play call. He had the dude open in the end zone, and Quinn just sailed it. That's not on Sark. That's on Quinn. It's a good call. He was open. You just said he got out coached. That has nothing to do with Sark. That's on Quinn. That's one play in one playoff game. That has nothing to do with Sark. Then you're talking about that has nothing. No, his quarterback should be able to make that throw. Any quarterback should be able to make it. Was a back shoulder end zone throw. It's not a crazy.
Agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
So it's not on Sark. Then you can go to the Ohio State game. You're talking about Ohio State game that was horribly officiated. They got so many free plays. It was ridiculous. And then you want to talk about again in that same Ohio State game, Quinn melts down and fucking fumbles going into the end zone, throws he has a horrible game. Again, Sark can only call the plays. He can't make the players run the plays.
I agree. So I didn't say Sark was a bad coach.
You said but for you to say he was out coached,
he
doesn't make any sense.
Out coached by Kirby
How
Smart.
Can you say that when he doesn't?
He clearly got out coached by Kirby Smart in those 2 games. Yes, for sure. No. He didn't have an answer. Dude, that first game, y'all looked like a team that shouldn't even be in the same building.
I understand that, but there's even
and
yes,
that was
okay.
a bad Georgia team.
Even if the you've blown my top.
Get the top back in. Bring it back in.
I don't think you give enough credit, because like here's the thing. Georgia, I think Texas is still brand new to this. We're brand new to even being in this conversation, like the whole roster is. The whole coaching, the university hasn't been. So Georgia's been here. Georgia won back-to-back already. They're an SEC main. They go to the SEC championship every year. The SEC championship is basically a Georgia home game. So yes, I think person for person, you can argue with me. I know you're going to say I'm wrong, but I think person for person, skill for skill, I think Texas was better than Georgia last year. But what I think you're correct, and I'll give you credit for, I think Georgia just had a better mindset, because I think they beat Texas mentally, and then that led to everything that came afterwards. I don't think that makes Georgia smacking Texas in the mouth. That's not what I see that as. I see
they win that game and punch y'all in the mouth.
I think you're just you use that hyperbole to piss me off, but I don't think that's.
We got punched in the mouth by Vanderbilt.
I don't think that. I wouldn't even say that either. I think Vanderbilt, like, that's the thing, is you think a team losing is just no. I think Vanderbilt caught y'all on a bad day.
Me saying punched in the mouth means you got blown out or it was just a dog walking. That's not what getting punched in the mouth is. Getting punched in the mouth is playing a team that you should be, or that you are better than, should be better than, should win the game, and they just do shit that you didn't expect them to do. Y'all did not go in there expecting Georgia to blitz him, and y'all's offensive line not being able to protect Quinn Ewers for more than 2.5 seconds. Y'all didn't anticipate that. That's getting punched in the mouth.
And that okay, fine. And that goes to my Arch Manning thing. And when you say how did he look, so what did you expect him to do? Come into that Georgia game and just all of a sudden turn into Johnny Manziel? Like,
no, but I definitely expected
what? No, what did you expect? What was he supposed to do? Like, is he supposed to go an offense? He's his second. It's his second start of his third start of his entire career playing against Georgia on national television under the lights for the first time in his entire career as the number one team ranked as the number one team in the country. You got to defend that. You get thrown into a game you weren't even prepared to be in.
I agree.
And you expect him to just go out there. Like, did you expect him to just throw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? Like, what did you expect him to do? Yes, you can say there has been players that come in and just come out of nowhere and do great. Yes, but you can't hold you. That's not going to just because
you can't hold my Archie to that. You can't hold my Archie to that standard.
No, but just because he didn't do that. No, just because he didn't do that doesn't make him a bad player.
I didn't say he was a bad player. I said he hasn't shown me anything that's really surprised me and made me believe
yeah, he should.
He's in fucking Heisman talks right now for what?
I agree.
Monroe and UTSA?
I agree. He shouldn't be a Heisman contender. I'm not saying he should be a Heisman contender. There's that's ridiculous to me. But maybe you could talk me into Texas at 3, maybe with Penn State.
Saying. We're arguing over a spot. And
it's not. I'm arguing. Spot. I think it's about the closeness of Texas and Alabama on your list. Personally, I think that's what's throwing me off.
I think outside of the.
I disagree. I just fundamentally disagree. I just disagree.
No, we definitely have a better roster than Texas does.
Outside of the quarterback position.
Our receivers are better. Our corners are better. Our linemen are better. Our linebackers are better. Our coach is better. We're a much better team than people are giving us credit for. Reasonably, because of what happened last year. But last year's team and this year's team they're going to be a completely world of difference. And if they're not, I would be so shocked and surprised I might cry. Because I just don't see us even being as close to as bad as we were last year.
Yeah, we just fundamentally disagree. Because
that's fine.
I don't.
But you've already admitted you don't pay that much attention to Bama. So that's okay. But you can't sit here and expect me to, or anybody to sit there and go, okay, yeah, Texas deserves that 1 spot for sure.
I don't have them at 1, so I don't think they should be number 1 either.
But you had them at 1 a couple days ago.
Yeah, I did, and then I thought about it, and I was like, well, I can't have them at 1. Ohio State beat them, so It was that
That's
simple
not
for
a
me.
good argument to not have him at 1, by the way, because
I mean,
Georgia.
The argument was was Ohio State beat him along with everything else that I mentioned earlier in the video.
And like I said, and I still have Texas ranked ahead of us based on Arch because I think he can be really good. But I also think I'm not surprised at all in the slightest bit. I'm not surprised at all if Ty Simpson goes out there and plays at a average level and we remain in the top 3.
I would be impressed.
I got that much belief in what we got going on over there.
You know, whenever we sit down and go over when we do our consensus top 25, that's gonna be a fucking battle, dude.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
We're gonna have to that's gonna be the entire show.
Probably so, and I think a lot of it will hinge on Alabama and Texas.
I think you're probably right. Because, and I think we'll probably do it live. Like we probably won't do like probably better not to do it, you know, beforehand.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. No, I think we should do it live also. I think we should do it also. And yeah, I mean, yeah. I think I've said everything I need to say for right now. I got Ohio State at 2 and Penn State at 1 to finish off my list.
Oh damn! We didn't even get past it. My bad, dude.
No, you started speaking out about Texas being ranked 3rd, and because I think Arch is a little overrated.
No, I just didn't like your answers. I'm okay with Texas. Why? Like about you just don't like to give us credit. It's fine. We don't deserve it. We don't deserve it.
I've told you. Listen. Okay. Take your burnt orange sunglasses off for 2 seconds. 2 seconds, and just take a look at my list. A&M, a team that I'm very high on, has beaten Alabama, also in the state of Texas. Not really a rival, but whatever. Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU. I have LSU at 7. Not because I think they're a bad team, but because I just don't believe in us. Also beat us. South Carolina, super high on them. I don't have Auburn on this list. I think they suck. Tennessee, I have on this list. These are all teams that I'm giving credit to. A lot of these teams are probably ranked higher than they should be because I'm giving them credit. So don't say I'm just not giving Texas credit. These other teams have earned credit, I feel like, based on history and based on prestige and based on not just beating Alabama, but beating other teams as well. I'm so high on Marcel Reed because he comes out there as a freshman against LSU and completely plays lights out and shuts down the entire city of College Station as a freshman.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I'm high on Marcel Reed. Why aren't you high on Arch? Why would I be high on Arch? That's the question.
But it feels like it feels like you're so staunchly not high on Arch just because it feels like you're holding him to a way different standard than anybody else.
I think everybody's holding him to a different standard based on
no. But but you're not the fan base. I'm asking you I'm telling you, you're holding him to you're expecting him to just come out and light the world on fire immediately as soon as he touches the ball.
That's what everybody's making it seem like.
But I'm not asking you. But I'm not asking you what you think everybody else is thinking. I'm asking you what you
think. I think he's not going to do that, and I think it's going to be a huge letdown, and everybody's going to be pissed off at him.
But you can't. Just because I'm saying don't go so far in one direction doesn't mean you have to go so far in the other direction.
I said I think Arch is going to be a good quarterback.
You just said no. You just said it's going to be a huge letdown. He's going to be a bust, and it's going to be everybody's going to be. You just said that.
Expectations that y'all have put on him already. I can't go 5 seconds on my phone without seeing Arch Manning, and fine, whatever.
That's not our fan base. That's not us. That's not the Texas fan base.
Whose fan base is it then?
That's the national media. Nope. If you if you talk to any, not the Twitter people, some of the Twitter people be talking crazy, but I'm telling you, if you go talk to any rational Texas fan, they will tell you that Arch, we fully expect there to be bumps in the road. There's going to be moments where Arch is gonna struggle. We fully expect and understand that.
Here's my thing.
I still think he's got the pedigree to be a really good player outside of some games where he struggled.
I would say this. I watched the UTSA game and the damn UNLV game. And he played marginally pretty well. I would argue. He played like a starter, and I think he looked really good. But I think his bad plays looked pretty bad, which, to me, just shows me or made me feel a little uneasy about how good is he really. Not that he is bad or that he played bad last year. Outside of the Georgia game.
I think it's unfair for that for you to ask
what I've seen.
No, because what you saw against a Georgia team he wasn't even supposed to be in. It wasn't his game to play. And
sure. How much better do you realistically think that game?
Let me ask you this. If Arch was the starter the entire year, or not the entire year, let's say because Quinn was hurt, Arch goes in and starts that game. I think if he prepares the entire week and plays from start to finish, I think it might be. I'm not saying we win. I'm not saying we win because I still think Georgia was going to beat us that night. I'm not here to argue that we win if Arch starts, but I think it changes the complexion of the game for sure.
Was he not prepared that week? Was he not at practice?
You've played sports. You don't, especially in a game like that. The ones are getting the reps. They want the ones to be it's not about.
And you're a guy like Arch Manning it's crazy to me to think if I'm Arch Manning and the way y'all were treating Quinn going into that game, I would be out of my mind if I was just sitting there as Arch and being like, I'm probably not going to get in this game. I'm thinking I'm probably going to get in. There's a chance I get in every game, if not start some games over Quinn. If I'm Arch Manning last year. So why would I not prepare for that? I think that's a weak excuse to say he wasn't prepared to be in that game.
I'm saying, but the preparation. Did the light just go out on you?
Something happened.
Because your face just got real dark.
Yeah. Okay, onward.
Damn. Forgot what I was gonna say. The ADD kicked in. The preparation between a starter and a backup is just different. It just is. And I think yes, would it have been nice for him to come in and just light it up? Sure. But ultimately, I think he just wasn't, and you could say it might be a shitty excuse, but I would like to, and maybe it's my fandom giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'll admit that. But I think that the game had he prepared the entire week as the starter, got the reps, prepared the same way, I think it changes the complexion of the game for sure. That's just my personal opinion.
Maybe Arch is better. Maybe he is. I'm not saying he's definitely not better than Quinn. Maybe he goes out there next year and maybe y'all don't lose a game and y'all light the world on fire with Arch. Maybe. But after that, I wouldn't have Texas at 3 because I think they're overrated. I would have them at number 1 on consensus, unbiased, no doubt about it. They're the best team in college football. I just haven't seen that out of – and I feel like it's not that crazy to say based off of what happened last year with Quinn. I understand Quinn. Trust me, if somebody knows about a fucking struggling quarterback on their football team, it's me. Just like I'm not mad at you for having – I think it's stupid that you have Alabama at 8. But there's people who have Alabama at 12, 13, and 14. Not mad about it. I think it's wrong, but I'm not mad about it. Because how can't – we lost – we beat Georgia, and then we lose to Vanderbilt.
That's a mind fuck. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Y'all played a subjectively pretty easy schedule. So did we.
Yeah.
We lost to the easy teams. I get it. But you're sitting here commanding a way different level of like prestige off of those games. But you're holding us to a way different. Like the standard you're holding us to compared to yourselves is super weird. And that's what bothers me so much, because you're like, oh, well, you lost to those easy teams. They're dog shit. You lost to them. And then you're like, but we deserve respect because we beat them. Is what it sounds like.
No, you're looking at it as glass half empty. I'm looking at it as glass half full, in the sense that we beat, or I had it and then I lost it. We lost to the good teams, and that means they're better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I just okay. I'm not trying to start an argument there. We lost to the teams that were good. So, and we beat the teams that were bad. And so you sit here and think, well, how good are you really? That's a fair question to ask. But it feels like you'd rather disrespect the fact that we beat the bad teams than. That's not a good way to put it either.
Here's my thing. Alabama, for so long, has handled business against those teams. Vanderbilt, OU, Tennessee. Like, we've always done that. We've just beaten those guys. Like, we see them on the schedule, and it's like, okay, we're not even paying attention to it. That's a win for us, right? So, a part of me still holds that same standard for everybody, every top team, right? So, in my mind, it's like, why do you get credit for that? That's a win for you. It should have been a win for you. You did what you were supposed to do. This year is a little different because we lost to those teams, and it's like, oh my God, what the fuck is this? Misery. So now it kind of brings it back down, but the standard is still the same, in my opinion. I'm not scared of Vanderbilt. I see a team like Vanderbilt or a team like Arizona State. There should be no competition there.
Right.
That's why you feel like it's a disrespect. I would feel the same way about LSU or Georgia or anybody else, but they're not in that position that Texas is in. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, listen. I think we'll probably wrap it up here in just a minute. But I mean, I think ultimately, and there's a lot of stuff in our list that are pretty. So I think there's very obvious and specific points where we kind of differ. But ultimately, I think our lists were pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar outside of a couple spots.
Outside of a couple spots. I think maybe I don't know if next stream we'll do it, because we'll have to actually probably talk about it. Yeah, talk about it.
You got me a little hot over here.
I know, right? I'm like, I gotta go get another beer. Like, fuck.
Sweating it up a little bit.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, are there any last specific points you would like to make with your top 25, with the seating, or any just last minute jabs you'd like to make?
No last minute jabs. I think after we converse about it a little bit more, I think you'll have Alabama ranked a little bit higher than where they're at now.
Okay, and I guess to end it, I'll say I don't. Now you could talk me into an Alabama LSU flip, maybe, but then I might say I probably would take South Carolina over Alabama. So I would say maybe 7 is where I would. But we can have a discussion.
You'll have them in the top 5 for sure.
You think so?
Definitely.
Well, I think maybe I'll have to do some research and look at it a little bit more, because I don't know. I don't see what you see, so maybe I'll have to see something that I haven't seen before.
But don't worry. I can get as in detailed and in depth about every single player on the roster as you need me to get.
Okay. All right. Well, so our new schedule, kind of new schedule that we're going to try to do. We're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 p.m. every day, live on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, X, Texas Sports World for all of that. Be sure to check that out. Like, comment, subscribe. We've had a great time. It's gotten heated. We've had some laughs. I think we kind of hit every note that we intend to hit on this this channel. So if you guys ever want to come hang out with us, feel free to chat. Feel free to let us know what's up. Tell us where we're wrong. I'll post this on the Twitter later, and I'm sure we'll get lit up. So yeah, you got anything else, brother, before we get out of here?
Sleep tight, keep it tight, feel it right. Good night.
Hello, later.